Hi guys, I'm Yusuf. I'm a Gen Surg Reg from Melbourne, Victoria, and the founder of the GSSE Roadmap. This is the second video of our GSSE study series. And so you may have come here from our first video talking about the 5 common GSSE pitfalls. And as promised, here's a short live walkthrough of how to actually sit down and study for a productive study session. So if you haven't checked out that first video, make sure you do. We cover the 5 common pitfalls for GSSE study, and then in today's session we're going to be using the study platform that I created using my own study notes to ultimately make the GSSE more approachable through structured study plans and active recall all the way through. So we'll jump right in. I'm really a bit nervous getting ready to do this session, but we'll see how we go. So first off, we spoke about the pitfall of having no macroscopic study plan. So I'm going to jump in and build my own study plan. We're in June 2026 at the moment. So let's say we're going to work towards the February set. I'm still kind of in the pre-contemplative phase of just working out when I want to study this and when I want to prepare myself for studying for this thing. So let's say February is about 7-8 months away, pretty far away to be honest. This should give us ample amount of time. And then I have to roughly think about how many hours per week I can commit to studying using our roster. So in terms of your macroscopic study plans, whether you're not using this platform or whether you're using your own Excel spreadsheet, super important to have a realistic hours per week in terms that you can commit. And this will vary depending on whether you're on Gen Med or you're on a super busy traumatic surgery, trauma surgery rotation. So whatever you're on, work out roughly how many hours per week you can commit. And I always like to think about how many hours during the week after a work shift I could commit to. So often for me, that was a maximum of an hour and a half and about 90 minutes. And then times that by, let's say 4, it's about 12 hours. Is that 12 hours? So I've now worked out the maths, and 1.5 times 4 is 6. So that's 6 hours in the week during the week. And then let's say you have a few more longer study sessions later in the week. So that's, let's say, a couple 4-hour blocks. So, 4 hours on Saturday, 4 hours on a Sunday, that's 8 hours. So in total about 14 hours, let's say around number of 15 hours. So if I'm committing about 15 hours per week roughly, I will just chuck it all in there. We generate a plan. So because we're so far out from February, this means I should be able to cover all the topics before the exam with a 5-week buffer, which is more than I'd recommend of the 3-week buffer. So heaps of time to cover. Of course, always nice to have so much time, but if you are a bit more crammed, then you can change the timelines accordingly. So you jump in. And cool, so I've got now my study plan that if we were to jump in today, we'll start off with head and neck, huge topic. That would take about 3 weeks to cover, a total of 78 hours. Importantly here, the number of blocks is a block of 30-minute study. So I want to try and replicate I'm not going to do a whole 30-minute study session, but if I was going to start a 30-minute study session, one of these blocks, what would that look like? So, but first and foremost, do I have a macroscopic game plan? Looking through now, I do. So I can see that each of these dates I'm going to cover different topics, and you can also see I've gone and mapped out how much of the syllabus is attributable to different topics. So head and neck, 23% of anatomy, should take me a considerable amount of time. Whereas abdomen, 15%, 22 hours, much less time. So that's why it's only going to take up about 10 days of study based on the amount of hours I can do when based on the roster that I inputted. So that's 20 blocks of study, which is each block is half an hour study session. But importantly, these hours include for me the first study, which is the first pass of looking at the content, and then the first review process, and then the second review process. So for me, the workflow that I worked out was roughly it takes me about half an hour to do one block, about 20 minutes to do a first review, and then 15 minutes to do a second review of the topic. And if I could do that then I was pretty confident that I knew the content well. So that's where this hours comes in, and this is all broken down in how to use the roadmap. So this is my macroscopic plan, and then I can see whether or not I've ticked off topics or not. This completion is there because I was already using the roadmap, but of course when you start it'll all be 0. But most importantly, as we mentioned in the previous video, it's important to gamify the process, that you can see where you are along the journey, and that's what the percentage is all about. So I've got my macroscopic game plan. I've got, let's say, half an hour to study, a bit less in this video, of course. But let's jump into a topic, and I'll choose a topic because I'm a Gen Surg Reg. I'll choose a topic that I'm not familiar with. So let's go in like lower limb. Haven't thought about lower limb in a while. And then you can see here, all these topics are broken down. Once again, this is still kind of a macroscopic plan. You've got pretty much 11 topics here, all broken down into the chapters from Last's anatomy. And each of these topics you can see, anterior compartment of the thigh, pretty big topic, 3 blocks, so it's going to take about an hour and a half. Medial compartment of the thigh, 1.5 blocks, so about 45 minutes, and so on and so forth. So if we keep going down, you can see that there. So if we go, for example, let's go anterior compartment of the thigh. This would take about an hour and a half to cover. I'm not going to go through all of it, but we'll jump in. Loads up. So now I'm into my topic. I know it's going to take me roughly an hour and a half to cover this. And what does that actually look like? So first and foremost, I've collated high yield netters images that I would then have alongside, this is one I prepared earlier, alongside my study notes. So I've got the visual aids to make to assist me with seeing things in pictures rather than reading dry summary notes or reading dry textbooks. It's all visual, so I use netters very, very closely. And then importantly, I have really high yield YouTube videos. So I want to learn the content first. So I'd go in and watch this video. So I'm gonna, so we'll speed this up, but I'm gonna watch this video now. It's about 3 minutes or so. All the estimates I had in my study was sped up to 1.5 times speed. So the fact that it says it takes you about an hour and a half to cover this topic would include videos being sped up to 1.5 times speed. So I'm going to watch this video now, and then we'll see how I go with the questions.
Today we're going to discuss about the lumbar plexus. The lumbar plexus is formed within the substance of the psoas major muscle by the union of ventral rami of L1 to L4 spinal nerves, and also from contributions of the subcostal nerve, or T12, which is the last thoracic nerve. As you can see, here I have indicated the ventral rami of L1 to L4 spinal nerves, and also the subcostal nerve. Further on, we'll discuss how the lumbar plexus is formed. The ventral ramus of L1 nerve, supplemented by a twig from T12, divides into a larger upper branch and a smaller lower branch. The larger upper branch gives rise to iliohypogastric and ilioinguinal nerves. The smaller lower branch joins with a twig from L2 nerve and forms the genitofemoral nerve. The L2, L3, and L4 nerves divide into dorsal and ventral divisions. I will indicate the dorsal divisions using the color orange. The dorsal divisions of L2, L3, and L4 unite to form the femoral nerve. From the dorsal divisions of L2 and L3 also derives the lateral cutaneous nerve of the thigh. Further, we'll indicate the ventral divisions using the color green. The ventral divisions of L2, L3, and L4 join to form the obturator nerve. The accessory obturator nerve, if present, is derived from the ventral branches of L3 and L4 nerves. The ventral ramus of L4 nerve gives off a twig which will join with the ventral ramus of L5 nerve, thus the connection between the lumbar and sacral plexuses being formed. That's why the ventral ramus of the fourth lumbar nerve is sometimes called nervi furcalis, because it forms the mentioned connecting link.
Okay, cool. So I kind of got a bit lost towards the end, but I think I've got the broad brush strokes. But for me, that's a nice way of just getting straight into my study, watch the video, and there's not too much inertia associated. You might have noticed me having pen and paper, and that's something I did a lot during my study. Remembering the third pitfall being avoiding passive learning, I would always be just scribbling on scrap pieces of paper, pretty illegible drawings and writing, to be honest, but it's just that process of keeping active so I could try and get the information in my brain. So I've just got this really poor schematic of the lumbar plexus that I was kind of copying and trying to put together myself based on the video. And then I'd also be scanning the Netter's picture next to it to try and see where this all comes off. And I can see mentioned psoas major, it's there, and then the iliohypogastric, ilioinguinal nerves coming off laterally. Okay, it's kind of getting pieced together. But importantly now, going through, so I also often have a monitor nearby. So the fact that it was on a split screen meant I couldn't see my toggles. So normally I'd have the Netter's picture on another monitor and then this whole screen open. And then now I just dive into the question. So all the blue ones mean I haven't done this question before. And importantly, remembering the fifth pitfall is we do not want to be perfectionists. So it's totally fine if I get all of these questions wrong. So what does this actually look like? So if I don't know an answer at all, I'll mark it as red. If I kind of knew it, it will be yellow. And if I felt confident with it, it will be green. So let's start with the first question. What muscle is the key landmark for the lumbar plexus? We met psoas major. That was definitely mentioned in the video. Cool, so correct. That will be green. What nerve roots arise within this muscle? I'm just going to say all of them. So L1 to L4. Cool, also green. What nerve arises from the medial border of psoas major? I don't know if that was mentioned. But I could also probably look at it from my Netter's picture, but wanting to keep this as active as possible, if I don't know it immediately, then I'm not going to go searching for it. I'm going to say obturator because I know kind of the obturator in the video was kind of diving down the other way, but we'll wait and see. Cool, it was the obturator, but I'll put a yellow because I wasn't 100% confident. And then something I like to do, particularly with anatomy, is this idea of you get one component of anatomy correct, but then you start chasing its tail. So the obturator nerve then moves, I'm not sure where it moves, downwards into the pelvis. So that's red, didn't know that. And it arises from what nerve roots? I'm pretty sure it was L2, 3, and 4. So cool, so I got that right. So now this is exactly what the beauty of active recall is. You can see now that I've got different colors showing up. So I've got a bit of yellow, I've got this red, and so for me that is sorry guys, I choked mid recording. So I was just saying how this is the beauty of active recall, that you start showcasing very clearly what you don't know, and that way you'll see it surely when I start reviewing my content. I'm only focusing on things I definitely know I don't know, and then I build that knowledge and build that retention. So yeah, a bit of yellow, a bit of red there, and then a green down here. So I know that I knew the answer to that one. Cool, so just keep working through. Nerve running along the anterior border of the psoas major. Pretty sure, I don't think that was mentioned in the video, and that often can be the case, but I think I vaguely saw it on the photo, which was a genitofemoral nerve, but not super confident. Oh, cool, it was. So I'll make that a yellow. Wasn't 100% confident. Genitofemoral nerve origins, I'm pretty sure was also, I think it was L1, L2. Of course, that'll be green. And then relation with the inguinal and femoral triangle. Okay, this definitely wasn't mentioned, so I have no idea. I'm just going to put a red. I don't know it. I'll learn it soon enough. So genitofemoral runs in the inguinal canal, pierces the deep ring. The femoral branch supplies skin. over the femoral triangle. So then I have to think to myself, how am I going to remember this? I don't know, so genital branch, a lot of gonadal vessels run in the inguinal canal, so that's how I'm going to remember. It's got that relationship with the inguinal, so genital branch. Oh, I guess actually branches, you break up genital femoral nerve into genital branch, the femoral branch, and then inguinal is genital, and then femoral triangle. Yeah, cool. So femoral branch, femoral triangle, genital branch, inguinal, because we said it had gonadal vessels. Cool. So I'm often talking to myself throughout the process, keeping it active, and then they'll get tested when we come back to it, and I'll show you when I come back to it. And then from superior to inferior, what nerves arise from the lateral border of psoas major? So we had the iliohypogastric, ilioinguinal, and then genitofemoral, and then femoral, then obturator. Okay, so it's broken it up a few times. So cool, iliohypogastric, we're right on that one. And the way I remember this one from med school, so some prior knowledge was coming through, but iliohypogastric was like H is before I, so that's why that one's higher. Root, I'm pretty sure it was only L1. Cool, so that's green. Ilioinguinal was L1 and 2. No, L1, I got that wrong. And then once again, see how the anatomy develops. So where does it lie in the abdomen? Posterior abdominal wall. Between internal oblique, okay, I didn't know that. So I get that wrong. Does it pierce? No idea. Let's just say, oh wait, I should have read the first part. Between internal oblique and the transverse abdominis. So I'm going to say it would probably pierce the external oblique to get to that plane, because we know external oblique should be above that. Okay, I'm wrong. That's fine. Internal oblique relative to external oblique, and emerges where? Deeper, and emerges, I'm not sure where it emerges. So deep to EO, yep. Emerges in the superior inguinal ring. Cool, okay. So keep going. Supplies the root of the penis and the anterior third of the scrotum. Didn't know that. And does it supply any thigh? Let's say no. Okay. Medial area of the thigh. Cool. So this is very good learning for me, because it means I pretty much know nothing about the ilioinguinal nerve. And then when I go through my reviews, this is something I definitely will be highlighted red to then get through. And probably the second time I do it, they won't all turn green. There'll probably be some yellows, and so that's okay. Both of the nerves arise above what muscle? I'm pretty sure it's was plastered on the back wall, which I think is quadratus lumborum. Nice, cool, so that was right. Lateral cutaneous nerve of thigh, I think it was 2 and 3. No, 1 and 2. Runs below inguinal ligament, and then swings laterally. Okay, so I didn't know that. And then the femoral nerve was 2, 3, and 4. I didn't know that. Cool. So I'm not going to go through the rest of the topic. So we said that the overall topic was 3 blocks, an hour and a half. So it would take me about an hour and a half to get through all of these videos and content, which would be a very solid sesh, which I will not bore you all with. But an important part of any first pass content, so this I would say would be my first pass of going through the lumbar plexus. And so I haven't finished the first pass until, as soon as I'm done, I go quickly back to the top and go through all the ones that are not green. So what nerve arises from the medial border of psoas major? That was the obturator nerve. Now I know it better. Cool. Obturator then moves downward, I think it was downward into the pelvis. Yep. Cool, so we got that right. Arises from which? It was 2, 3, 4. Cool. So now can you see how that's turning green? Awesome. And it's these small wins that build momentum. You kind of, you go from red to green, you build a little momentum that you knew you didn't know 2 or 3 minutes ago. And it's those small wins that keep you going and gamifies the whole process. I know I keep repeating that phrase, but it's really what got me through this exam, rather than rereading and highlighting content, not sure if I know it or not. But now I definitely know I know this content because I've had to actively recall it. So the nerve running along the anterior border of psoas major was the genitofemoral. So we knew that. Cool. Genitofemoral nerve roots was 1, 2. Nice. And then the relationship between the inguinal, what are the branches? The branches was the genital branch and the femoral branch, and the relationship with the inguinal was that the genital branch runs in the inguinal canal, and the femoral branch supplied the skin to the femoral triangle. Cool. That's green as well. Awesome. So we went for something that was pretty red to a lot of greens. Now it's this topic that I didn't do that well on. So this was overall a yellow. So genital iliohypogastric was green. So the ilioinguinal one was the one that I did terribly at. So the roots are roots 1. Cool, that's right. Where does it lie in the abdomen? Oh man, where does it lie in the abdomen? It was the layers between internal oblique and transverse abdominis, and something about the neurovascular plane. In the neurovascular plane, cool. I'm pretty happy with that. I'll pay that. And remembering, it's a true or false exam. Close enough is more than good enough. I'm okay with that. Does it pierce EO or IO? It pierced the IO, and then there was something else that I can't remember. But so did pierce the IO, and then so I got that right. Relative with EO, so it is deep to it and emerges superficial inguinal ring. Cool. I don't really know where that came from, but I think that's really just the power of active recall. Just comes out of nowhere. So that was all green. So this is some nice wins. And then supplies the anterior third of the scrotum and part of the penis, root of the penis. There we go. So we'll put yellow there, actually green there. And then does it supply any thigh? There was a small area somewhere, pretty low yield. Okay, got that wrong. Cool, but that's fine. I'm pretty happy with the level of content. So we've got greens.
1.
Hey guys, sorry I was mid-sentence when the camera died. And that's probably a sign that this video is going a bit too long. So we'll quickly wrap up. Pretty much, so we went through the first pass, then had a whole bunch of reds. We then rectified a lot of the reds, which is good. Sometimes if, for example, the inguinal, even though I got it all right the second time round, because I did so poorly the first time, I might just kind of keep it yellow. So the next time I review it, I'll make sure to look at that content. And then the femoral nerve root was correct as well. Cool. So that's pretty much the microscopic workflow when I sit down to study. That's how I'm doing it. And then to then feed that back overall, I would then say I've started this topic. It would be beginner level. I've gone through this once. So I then just keep rinsing and repeating the same process all the way through. And then once I've done, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 topics, it's been about a couple of days, maybe a week, I would then go back and let's say I'm ticking all of these off as beginner. A couple of days later, I'd then go back to all my beginner topics and then re-review them and go from top to bottom again and just run them through again. And often, as I said, every block now should take me about 20 minutes rather than the initial 30 minutes, because obviously you've covered the content. And you can see what was already yellow, and you know that you're not as strong in certain topics. So it's all there, ready to go. And it just kept it all very, very active. And the other thing that's always a nice little confidence boost is that you go all the way back to the beginning. Because I changed 3 or 4 topics to from not started to beginner, if you look at lower limb, it says, you've completed 36%. And that's based off me ticking off these topics as beginner. Cool, so that's pretty much the microscopic plan. And then after I finish all of lower limb, then I would use the bank to check whether or not I was getting things right or wrong. And if I was around the 70% mark when I'd go and do the bank questions for lower limb, then I'd be pretty happy with myself. And then obviously there's physiology down below and pathology as well. And when you have a look through the roadmap, you can have a look that whilst path and phys are really painful topics on the exam day, as well as throughout the study process, the actual sheer content is a lot less for path and phys. So I'd recommend try and get through path and phys content, and then once you've got through the content, just churn as many questions as you can, particularly do the bank and any questions you can get your hands on. Julie Mundy sends out a lot of good questions as well, just so you can pick those really nitty gritty details. But if you cover enough content, you should be okay for path and phys, even though it won't feel like it on the day, just by the nature of the exam. So those are roughly so we've spoken about a macroscopic game plan, how you can create that for yourself. Check out the link below to build your free study plan. You can see it took less than 2 minutes. No commitment required whatsoever. Microscopic study plan. So you have a collated set of notes or whatever you're using, and then you sit down, you get your bum in your seat, and you just start studying. Rather than trying to look at this YouTube video, try and look at this and that, and try and spend half an hour finding the perfect study setup. You've got to reduce the inertia and just get into your study. Pitfall number 3 was active or passive learning. So hopefully we showed how active the study process was here, and how I was okay with getting questions wrong because I knew I was going to repeat it. And it kind of felt not super painful going through the study process. Number 4 was not relying on the bank. You can see how I wasn't using the bank to study. I was using my own way of building foundation knowledge and then testing myself with the bank. And then lastly, I wasn't a perfectionist going through this whole process. So this video is definitely long enough. So thanks so much, guys, for coming along. If you do want to check out the roadmap, build your own free study plan, come on board. Would love to have you. Link is down below. And we also sometimes have some webinars as well, so they'll be updated on the website. But you can get in touch, check it out, use some free topics on the platform as well before you commit, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Absolutely pleasure doing this study session with you guys, and we'll be in touch soon. See ya.